science
in
seem
here?
to be somehow connected to the
Where
nationwide
the
pandemic.
heck are you?
We've received reports that victims afflicted with the infection show signs of increased aggression, and
Move everybody out of here now. There's a gas leak. Hey, move!
there seems to be some commotion coming from
Get the hell out of here! Run!
What was that? Dad?
I believe the first 10 minutes of The Last of Us is one of the greatest examples of narration we've ever experienced in gaming history. The Last of Us hardly needs an introduction. Its widespread success speaks not only to the popularity of the game, but also to the profound connection it's formed with players of all types. There are many reasons for its widespread success, including the unique gameplay, its brutal mechanics, and the stunning visuals of nature reclaiming our own civilization. But ultimately, I believe it's the game's storytelling and its ability to generate a narrative that creates such an immersive experience which has resonated so deeply with us players. One of the ways the game does this is its masterclass use of perspective to portray a global catastrophe on the personal scale of individuals.
What's this?
This is most immediately evident in the game's introduction, which spans just over a few minutes and is possibly one of the most impactful video game sequences in recent memory.
Where'd you get the money for this?
Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs.
Oh, good. You started helping out with the mortgage then.
Yeah, you wish.
The opening scenes of The Last of Us distinguish itself from other apocalyptic narratives by stripping away the broad, impersonal view of global disaster and instead immerses the player in the fear, confusion, and helplessness of a single young girl. We are thrust into Sarah's world as she wakes up at home alone with a gradually building sense there is something terribly wrong. By placing the player in Sarah's limited perspective, the game demands we feel the vulnerability that is this character's experience. Her youth, innocence, and lack of control over the situation evoke an emotional response that makes the catastrophe feel not just tragic, but deeply personal.
What was that?
Rather than just relying on an exposition dump, the game trusts the player to pick up cues from Sarah's environments and the world outside. The absence of heavy-handed explanations or dramatic monologues underscores the authenticity of the chaos. Small details like newspaper articles, distant explosions, and police sirens are enough to create a terrifying ambiance, filling players with dread without overwhelming them with information. In doing so, the game respects the intelligence of its audience, allowing them to piece together the severity of the situation gradually, just as they would in real life. This subtle storytelling amplifies the realism and heightens the immersion, allowing players to empathize more deeply with the characters' emotions and experiences.
I am warning you!
You shot him.
Sarah,
I saw him this morning.
listen to me. There is something bad going on. We have got to get out of here. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
I think the impact of using Sarah's perspective is most clearly exemplified in the car scene where we're escaping our childhood home. Notice we're not playing as Joel, the father with the revolver. We're not driving the car. We're not making decisions in the front seat. Instead, we're in the back seat, completely and utterly without control and in total shock. We're barely tall enough to see outside the windows, and all we can do is watch our childhood home rapidly descend into chaos. Stylistically, I believe this is an amazing scene. This choice to center the story on a child's viewpoint allows the player to process the horror in a way that is unique and highlights the humanity beneath the larger apocalyptic plot. It's a refreshing departure from the genre's typical reliance on big picture perspectives and instead zooms in on what it would feel like to have your world shattered at such a young, defenseless age.
Jesus Christ, how did this happen?
They got no clue. But we ain't the only town. At first they were saying it's just the South. Now they're going on about the East Coast, the West Coast. Holy hell. That's Lewis's farm. I hope that sumbitch made it out.
I'm sure he did.
Are we sick?
No, of course not.
How do you know?
They said it's just people in the city. We're good.
Didn't Jimmy work in the city?
That's right, he did. We're fine, trust me.
All right.
Let's see what they need.
Who do you think you're doing? Keep driving.
They got a kid, Joel.
So do we.
But we have room.
Hey!
Keep driving,
stop!
Tommy.
Stop!
You ain't seen what I seen. Someone else will come along.
You should have helped him.
This decision to lock players into Sarah's perspective is profoundly effective in generating an emotional connection to her, but also to Joel, her father, setting the stakes for the rest of the story. Players are not just witnessing tragedy, they're really living it. In those few minutes of gameplay, they see the apocalypse through Sarah's eyes, and then just as quickly experience her untimely death. The tragedy of that moment serves as the emotional foundation for Joel's character, helping players understand and empathize with his hardened demeanor as the story unfolds. This grounding in personal tragedy rather than impersonal calamity ensures that the game's stakes feel immediate and urgent rather than abstract, making every loss and moment of tension thereafter hit that much harder. By using Sarah's perspective, the game lays the groundwork for a story that, at its heart, is really about the resilience of human connection. Though The Last of Us takes place in a brutal and broken world, it is not solely about survival, but about how the characters seek purpose and attachment despite overwhelming loss. Joel's eventual relationship with Ellie is marked by the echoes of the love he lost in Sarah, giving his journey emotional complexity and depth on multiple levels. In this way, the story becomes about more than just fighting to survive a global collapse. It becomes a tale of enduring love, grief, and the delicate hope that can emerge from human connection. In the end, The Last of Us's opening sequence serves as a benchmark for narrative-driven games by demonstrating how powerful perspective can be in storytelling. Rather than framing the apocalypse as a spectacle, it chooses to focus on individual experiences, grounding the player in a personal sense of loss and fear. By building an emotional connection through Sarah and Joel, the game is able to explore larger themes of humanity, resilience, and redemption. This approach not only distinguishes The Last of Us as a landmark in video game storytelling, but also proves that games can evoke the same, if not greater, emotional responses experienced through literature or film. As a result, the introduction is not just a memorable moment in gaming, it is a powerful piece of storytelling, one that resonates with us long after the game has ended.